Welcome to Heart Riffing, a podcast by way of the heart. Here we explore what it means to reconnect with your essence and live from a place of personal freedom. If you're interested in learning more about our courses, mentoring and workshops, feel free to visit wayoftheheart.com.au. We're so glad you're here and we hope you enjoy the episode. Hi and welcome back to Heart Riffing, a podcast by way of the heart. Bello, welcome back.
Hello. Good to be back.
Great to be back. We're in a bit of a different location today, so if you're watching, we're still in the same house.
We're still in the tree house.
Just a different spot. So we're back here for episode 37.
We are.
And today, and I guess over the next couple of episodes, I want to try and make them a little bit more practical. And I think that we'd probably start that process with this episode, which is sort of catchily titled, Why Do Smart People Stay in Jobs That They Hate?
What was it again? Why?
Why do smart people stay in jobs that they hate? Because I feel like...
Because they're not very smart?
They're actually dumb people.
No. All right. So now we've dealt with that.
It's actually just going to be a mini series, just like 1 minute each episode.
We smashed that question.
Rapid fire questions.
Welcome back. All right.
Let's record like 10 more right now.
Great.
I feel like though, all jokes aside, a lot of the people who listen, a lot of the people who we deal with in mentoring or in, people who tend to buy the courses, they're people who are doing relatively well, or their life looks, pretty functional, pretty held together, but there is also often an undercurrent of it doesn't necessarily feel right or completely aligned. And I think that today I just wanted to tackle the professional side of that.
Yeah.
And why people stay in jobs that they don't necessarily like. And obviously the answer is probably more than just, well, I need money, because I feel like that's the simple response, but it probably goes a bit deeper than that.
It's probably on the surface of it seems simple. I think it's probably quite a complicated conversation. It's definitely worth having. It's where it would fit into kind of the way of the heart framework is that we have a question. It's our third question, and it's the question, where do you live? So in way of the heart book, in our core content, which we call the 6 heart questions, our third question is, where do you live? And it's a question around life context. It's a question about you come into some awareness of who you are as an individual, and then you immediately go, well, if this is who I truly am at the core of my being, if this is my ground of being, then that will have an ecosystem, that will have a context in which it's lived out, right? And that context is not just as simply, and it's not just an address. It becomes more than that. It becomes a conversation about where I live, who I hang out with. It becomes the conversation about my ecosystem. So I would have said early on in my life, not early on in my life, but towards the end of my life in formal institutional religion, when that was also my vocation, right? Because when we're talking about job, we're talking about a context for a vocation. Mm-hmm. I'm an accountant and I work at, PwC, or I work at Deloitte's, or I work at Billy Bob's Financing around the corner.
Yeah.
And they would be wildly different contexts, right? And you can easily get to a situation where you're in a vocational context, i.e. a job, what we're referring to broadly now as job. You can get into a context where I said, towards the end of ministry, I felt like a mango tree planted on a mountaintop. Mm-hmm. And what that, the value of that kind of metaphor or simile, whatever it is, the value of that for me was I'm trying really hard to produce beautiful mangoes and to be a fruitful tree, but I'm in a context that basically does not allow me to flourish. and so there has to be a transplant process. It'll be imperative for my well-being and for my ability to unfold and to be fruitful if we take the mango tree off the mountain and go and put it in some kind of more tropical environment. And then the mango tree will do naturally what a mango tree does because the environment will be conducive, right? So we automatically think that that's a conversation about the job that I'm in or external location. But really what we're talking about is we're talking about this inner dynamic where the inner truth of who you are has to penetrate the external environment that you're in. Right? So the mango tree, it cannot adapt. It's not going to become a pine tree.
Yeah.
Pine trees do really well in alpine situations.
Yeah.
And even they have a statute of limitations when it gets to what they call the tree line on a mountaintop.
Yeah.
And above the tree line, there are no trees.
Yeah.
Because it's too cold, it's too rocky. They just can't live there, right? So everything has this kind of statute where it goes, okay, I can survive here, but that's it. Now humans are really adaptable. So we often override, because we're so adaptable, we often override the internal orientation in favor of pushing through because I've created a logic in my head. So this is what we're going to talk about. Yeah?
Yeah. Yes. This is what we're going to talk about. I think this is also...
You've said yeah 4 times. Yeah. And Jess is going, I'm in a job that I don't like. Do you want to change your job? You need a different job, Jess. Yeah.
This is just a segue into...
Was this like personal counselling session? Okay.
I've just written down a list of all my grievances and I'm going to subtly bring them to you.
This is a way of the heart performance review, annual review.
Okay, I think where I'm trying to go is that, yes, we talk about all of this in the course. In Way of the Heart, we do a lot of we have a whole unit that's based around this. And I feel like I don't want to just redo the unit or go over.
Well, we haven't done it before, but yeah, I agree.
No, but I don't just want to sort of do a podcast on that unit.
No.
And I think I want to get more into the practicality of the niche thing in and of itself, being in that job that you don't like. And I understand that it translates to where do you live and creating a context that is congruent with your internal self. I think that probably another thing that is happening, though, with being in a job or being in an environment that you hate or that you really deep down feel isn't conducive to your growth and flourishing.
Yeah.
I think that there is a couple of myths that exist that perpetuate you staying in that place. And I think one of the biggest ones is, well, I have no other choice. There's no other option.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of want to go through some of those misconceptions and provide maybe a Way of the Heart reframe.
Sure.
Or an alternate way of looking at that, because I think that we can understand theoretically that we need to be in a context that helps us thrive and that is an alignment. And obviously we do that step by step in the course. But I think it would also be helpful to go, what is the human narrative that happens when you're in that space? What are the what ifs that kind of pop up that cause fear or some type of aversion or attachment or whatever it is that keep us in that environment, even if we do go climb a mango on a mountaintop.
Yeah.
But, at least I'm in the ground.
Yeah, and because maybe sometimes it's more nuanced than that. And it was more nuanced than that from me because, so let's jump into it, right? Yeah. So it was much more nuanced than that for me because for me, as a young man having a spiritual experience in 1987, right? Mm-hmm. Just a while ago.
Yeah, a couple of years.
So amazing personal spiritual experience, an experience of the vastness of the world and humanity and the vastness of the divine and in a place that was like a spiritual home, Crescent Head. It's one of the longest right-hand waves in New South Wales, probably in Australia. It starts off on a little thing called Suck Rock. It sucks beautifully. You go for it. You run. It runs forever. Up and back on it. It's a beautiful longboard wave. So it's kind of like, for anyone who's surfed, it's kind of like, yeah, Crescent Head tick.
Yeah.
And I was there for a weekend and had an amazing experience. And then after that experience, within less than an hour, I met some people that gave me a box to put that experience in. This is what that was. And the box that they gave me was a relatively standard kind of version of the Christian faith. And I was fascinated by it, right? I thought, if this thing is this thing, I loved that, therefore I must love this. Mm-hmm. And for many, many years I put the two together as a singularity. Mm. And for me, they were like, these are exactly the same, you know? And so I loved it. I loved studying. I loved thinking. I loved going to church. I loved learning liturgy, learning theology. I loved it all, you know. And there was nowhere else to go. When I was a young man, there was really nowhere else to go. Yeah, you could have done what Ram Dass did and gone to India and sat under a guru. I wasn't going to do that. Yeah. I was a surfer, you know what I mean? Like, the 70s were over. The 60s and the 70s were over. It was 1987. You know, it's like we'd moved from Crosby, Stills and Nash to Duran Duran. You know, people had, you know, Flock of Seagulls, you know, Depeche Mode, and we'd moved into the mod scene, you know, even the rockabilly dudes. You know, so no one was heading off to India to become a guru or a Buddhist monk in some kind of Tibetan or Thai village or something or other. So, yeah, so that was my introduction to the inner life, and something that has been the passion of who I am. My introduction to that was this context. And so when this context became a vocation, you know, I became a pastor, and I became a preacher, and a speaker, and I became a counselor and a spiritual mentor in that place. When the context here, the vocational context became difficult, it was really hard to extricate myself from that, because for me, the context was the essence of the thing that I'd been carrying. Maybe a nice way to think about this is, you make a cake and you get the vanilla essence and you just love the taste of vanilla. So you put the vanilla essence in the cake, and then you've got a beautiful vanilla tea cake, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. I don't like cake at all, but I'm just trying to give you. But what you love is, you love the vanilla essence. Yeah. But then you make a cake and you go, I don't even really like tea cake. Yeah. You know?
This would be someone who's like, a writer, and then they get a content creation job, or they get a job at a newspaper, and then, you know, suddenly they're writing 10 ways to lose weight this summer and exposés on celebrities, and they're going, this isn't what I loved about writing at all.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly right. Or a friend of ours who, you know, did the graphic design for the Way of the Heart book. She works as a school teacher. Why? Because when she was in graphic design, the graphic design studios that she worked for had to pump so much work through so quickly, she didn't get to do great graphic design. Yeah. She got to do churn and burn stuff. And so she goes, I have this incredible passion for creativity, and yet I'm not allowed to be creative because we got to pump this stuff out. Right. Right. And then, so therefore, the vocational context of the essence, she loves the creativity, she loves the design. You take the essence, the thing you're passionate about, you put it into a context, you think that the two marry up beautifully, and they don't marry up, right? That's our first big problem. Yeah. Right? And that was my first big problem. People say, why did you stay? If you didn't like it, why did you stay in institutional religion so much? Because I loved this. I loved inwardness. I loved spirituality. I loved philosophy and theology. and I couldn't find that anywhere else. And so I put this in this context, and this context became the embodiment of that.
Which I think is all well and good. Like, if it's all well and good if you're that kind of 1 in a million person where the context does actually adequately match the essence. But I think for the rest of us, the context will never fully match that core thing that you really love. Or maybe it does for a season and then it changes.
Yeah, so that's more the point.
And so you find yourself 100 miles down the road.
Yeah.
And it doesn't match anymore. But you're still staying in it because you've built a life dependent on that particular context as the vehicle for the essence.
Yeah, and it's I think you're right. I think that that's exactly right. And I don't think it's 1 in a million. I think that everyone goes through this. So I think that everyone at some point finds a place where they go, this is amazing. This totally fits. I love this. But things change. I mean, anyone who's been in the workplace knows that the workplace is a fluid space.
Yeah.
So it shifts and changes and it moves around. That's the truth about the workplace, that the workplace is actually very fluid. So you can find I think everyone will find a place or find a situation in life where in a moment it completely works. And there's this marriage between who I am and what I'm doing, and I've learned it, and I've learned the systems, I've learned the process. This is going really, really well. And then the business or then the situation shifts by whatever margin. They employ Meryl, and Meryl's a narcissist, and she's now my boss. And it's like, great. I love what I'm doing, but Meryl is, gaslighting me and telling me that what I do is not good enough, but it has been good enough. It's driven profits through the business, and now Meryl's now in charge, and now Meryl says that I'm not going to be part of the team because that she's bringing in her best friend Loretta to manage me because it's like whatever, right? It's massively the workplace life per se is fluid. And so you can find this momentary marriage between this is who I am and this is the context, this is the job that I have, and it's going great. And we feel like that when we get a job. We get a job and we go, I feel so excited. I've got my dream job.
Yeah.
And I turn up and on week 3 I'm driving home going, my dream job is a nightmare.
Yeah. I'm exhausted.
I'm dying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I can do my dream job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is that? Well, because my dream job has all these aspects to it, people, dynamics, expectations. What was on paper in the interview is not what I'm actually walking into. The vision statement of the business when I came into it thinking I could really work for a business like this. I mean, I love what they're on about. And then I get in there and I find it's 30 malignant people. None of whom give a shit about the vision statement. Oh, wow.
Or even know what it is.
Yeah. I love education, and I go and work in a school and I find out that the school is full of people that hate kids, are bored, are fatigued, and can't wait for Easter and Christmas holidays.
To get away from them all.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Now we're being cynical, but we're being cynical to the point where this is kind of real. This is what people run into. And the default situation is the default position is not to immediately pivot. The default position is, okay, I need to see this through.
Yes. Because obviously you can't, quit or change your jobs whenever something gets hard.
Yeah, you can't.
But then I think, if the default position is, well, I'm going to see it through, then I think the risk with that is that you start tying your identity up in the success of that context, or how successful you can make that context, or how you can survive or thrive.
Yeah. And so sometimes in these situations, I wonder whether really it is our definitions of things like success. I often feel like we're Don Quixote. I don't know if anyone knows Don Quixote,
I had to read it in uni.
Yeah, we think that the windmill's a dragon. So, we mount our trusty steed and charge at the windmill.
Wasn't the steed
Thinking
a
we're gonna
donkey
get-
too? Actually,
Huh?
it wasn't the steed a donkey or something.
It could have been. I can't remember, but you know, it's like I'm going to slay the dragon, dude. It's a windmill. Which is a very classic kind of Alan Watts observation that a lot of the time it's a complete misread.
Mm-hmm.
The misread here is that we always have a perception of being in a job and success is often spelt out for us, right, in terms of our key performance indicators and what the business wants us to achieve and what the group or what the people or what the dynamic is, right? And they get spelt out for us. Sometimes success in real terms is not how well I've actually completed that.
Yeah.
Sometimes success is how well I personally have registered that these demands are ridiculous.
Yes.
So if I'm in a toxic workplace and I'm starting to register the toxicity of the workplace, and it's starting to impact me, and I'm starting to allow myself to explore that. So that was the most healthy part of me when I was in toxic ministry situations. And when I say toxic ministry situations, I'm talking about highly tribal, highly exclusive, a leader who's a command and control leader. A pattern in the organisation of, sycophancy where everyone says yes to the leader, despite the fact that the leader is
in the wrong,
is wrong, and sometimes immoral, right? But we brush over that. So if I'm in that situation, compliance to and or getting behind the vision of that particular individual is actually not successful at all.
Mm.
It's really dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes people's wrestle is that we're trying to wrestle things that we shouldn't be wrestling.
Mm.
We're attacking windmills. That's the metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm.
The best thing we could do is go, I'm not joining Don Quixote and attacking a windmill. This is madness.
Yeah.
This is collective madness.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? Why is that the goal? Now but notice as soon as you do that's a countercultural thing to do.
Mm.
You're now in a context and you're questioning the validity of the context. Okay. That instinct doesn't get rewarded.
No.
And for most of us, what we do is we internalize that instinct, and instead of critiquing the context, the job, we critique ourselves. Why don't I fit? Why isn't this working for me?
Yeah.
Because we're going back to the question, right? Which is, why do smart people stay in jobs?
Yeah.
Because smart people are really adaptable. Smart people are really resilient normally. Smart people go, okay, I'll give it another month. Okay, well, maybe this will shift. Okay, we've employed Loretta, but I don't think she'll last. I'll wait her out. Or I've invested so much, so therefore, smart people basically, they weigh up the situation, they weigh up the context, and they make a value judgment about it, and then they find a way to adapt to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But in that adaptation process and in the, spinning the narratives that you need to spin in order to stay in that place, don't you just risk moving further and further and further away from yourself? Like, you can start to do some real heart violence in that space, no?
Yeah, you really can. Yeah, of course you can, for sure. Yeah, no doubt you can. But again, we're talking about really smart people. So really smart people might take an aspect of their life offline. So they take back some ownership of, okay, well, I'm just going to go to work and get the money, and I'm just going to sit in the meeting, and I'm not going to buy in. I'm not going to argue, or I'm just going to learn self-restraint. And so I'm not going to allow myself to get. So smart people have adaptive processes where they can adapt and they can shift and they can move. And yes, they can be doing internal violence to themselves. I mean, I stayed in ministry for 23 years. One of the biggest things that kept me in ministry for 23 years was a friend of mine, Elliot. I think I've mentioned this. He's now sailing around the world with his partner, So, Elliot, this is for you. I blame you. He said to me, "You got really good critique of the church, mate, but if you want to change it, you got to be part of it to change it. You can't change something from outside the tent. You got to be in the tent working on it."
Yeah.
And I thought, he's right. You know, I'm positioning myself outside this thing. I've really got to get in there and work for change. I've got to work for positive change in this institution. And the reality is that doesn't work.
Yeah.
You know, like the chairman of Way of the Heart would say, large organisations, their culture is set in concrete within the first 10 years of those things existing. It seldom shifts. Once the culture's set, culture is one of the least flexible things.
Interesting.
Right. So one of the things that kept me in it was the misread. You know, his bellow off on his trusty steed to attack institutional religion with the misread that I could bring change to this thing. Well, you can't bring change to this thing. This thing's existed for 2,000 years in various different forms with highly embedded patriarchal, you know, structures that are completely resistant to change. It's just like we've got Catholic priests still walking around in the garb that they wore in the Middle Ages. It's like, they don't change.
Yeah.
And they're still wearing farmers' frocks from what they used to wear in the Middle Ages. It's like not a lot of change going on there. There's still not a female pope. There's still not female Catholic priests. There's nuns. So yeah, this thing is not amendable to change. But I misread it, and that I think embedded into all of us is this capacity to suppress the negative register. And what I mean by that negative register is we feel the toxicity, we feel this thing isn't where we should be. We suppress that. We find a framing story that quarantines that, and then we have a misread, give ourselves this sense of, well, but if only I just do this, if only I stay here this long, if I can just do, you know, we give ourselves some kind of caveat that gets us across the line. Well, I got 2 little kids and the wife's just gone back to work, and I mean, this place lets me leave work at 2:30 if I start at 7, so that way I can be home at 3 o'clock for the kids, and I do a trade-off. I work for Lionel. He's a complete asshole, but at least I'm with my kids by 3.
Yeah.
You know.
So what do you, I guess, what do you do with that? And I mean, I feel like that's probably a loaded and a tricky question at the same time. And maybe it's more helpful for me to draw on my own experiences. Like I obviously am here at Way of the Heart, but have recently started doing teaching on the side, which is just a callback to what I previously did. I was previously in education, and I got a teaching qualification to begin with, not because I wanted to be a teacher, but because I was like, well, this will be a good fallback if I ever need something. And here it is. It's a fallback. I don't fundamentally think that I'm a teacher. I don't think that that's my craft or who I am. But I'm doing it because that's the financial reality.
So we're talking about 2 separate things here too, right? We're talking about smart people that stay in jobs where they love what they're doing. So like, this is who I am. I found a vocation which allows me to do that, right?
Yeah.
But then something happens within the context of the vocation, the job within the vocation that I love turns difficult, right? And so some people have got to go. So there's a question in that. I love being a teacher, but I'm in a horrible school.
Yeah.
Right? That's one thing. So that's where there is both internal and vocational alignment.
Okay, yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the place where they make their money is doing the thing that they really love doing.
Yes.
Right? But something within the context of that has shifted, and my immediate context is not great, and I'm staying there too long, and I need to shift. Right? That's one thing. And then we're talking about people who are essentially fish, and this is why I use the stupid analogy. They're fish, and they're wondering why they can't climb trees very well. It's like, like the essence of who you are and how you're behaving and where you're living and what you're trying to achieve has nothing to do with this.
Okay.
Right? That's a separate thing.
Yes.
So fish swimming in water that's becoming brackish, I got to get out of here. This is not great. but they're still in water, or fish trying to climb a gum tree, two completely separate things.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a helpful?
Yeah. So then I guess how do you deal with both of those things? If we go back to the first, the fish is swimming in the water, it's getting brackish, or to, say it explicitly, like you said before, your vocation is aligning with what you're doing and who you are.
Yeah.
But the particulars of that context or that environment are unhelpful.
Yeah.
Then what do you do?
Well, then you skillfully manage the context that you're in. You do what we said before. You look at your environment, you go, why am I here? You do the for and against.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite logical. What's the benefits of being here? What's the disadvantages of being here?
You sign up for mentoring with us and we'll just help you through the rest.
Well, no. Well, some people do sign up for mentoring with us, and it is a matter of going, like, you're actually, this is exactly where you should be, but you've got to learn to skillfully manage this. You're not managing yourself well. It could be that there's too much external energy in it. You're very reactive. You've allowed yourself to become very reactive. You need to calm the farm. You're too emotional. Take a little bit of the emotion out of this. Or it could be you're very egoic. There's a lot of ego in this. I mean, I had a lot of ego in ministry. Because when I went into ministry, there was so many big egos that if it was a bit like being it was nothing like being a movie star, but like Mick Jagger said it really well. Mick Jagger said, if you need to stand up on stage in front of 50,000 people, you've got to have some ego to do that.
Yeah, right.
If you're going to stand up and speak for 40 minutes, or in my case, get up and lecture for 3 hours to a room of 150 people, there's a little bit of ego there, right? And so you go into an environment that's highly egoic. That's really toxic. Unfettered and unmanaged ego is a food fight. It becomes a violent context. People competing with one another. So of course that becomes toxic. So it may be that you just go, geez, you need to manage other people's ego well, and you need to dial the volume down on your ego.
Yeah, right.
Like, damn, like, why are you competing in the first place? So that's people who are in a context that's really good for them, but they're not managing themselves well, or they're falling into what I would call the organizational drift. You see this so much in government organizations. You go consult in them, you work in them, you find that passive aggression is just rife. It's everywhere. Because so many people have got golden handcuffs. You know what the golden handcuff is? It's like, well, I joined a super scheme when I started at 22 and I'm now 36 and I'm 14 years into that. And, I've put aside X amount of my pay for this. And then when I get to 50, I can retire on the salary that I've
got it.
And you go, okay, great. But you're 36. You've got another 14 years before you get, yeah, I've just got to see it out. Wait a second. You've got to what? I had this conversation with a girl in Canberra. She goes, yeah, I've just got to see it out. I just got to get through. You've got to get through 14 years of hating this environment, but because when I get to 50, I'm going to get 150K every year until the day I die. So I've got to just munch down on this shit sandwich for 14 years. Just go like, okay, so what becomes the behavioral, what becomes the operation, operandus, what is it?
Modus
operandi. How do you operate for the next 14 years? Passively aggressively, basically,
like you've become Meryl. Yeah.
Can you please do this for me? Yes. It's like that yes was the most spiteful yes that was ever spoken.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do? She takes the file, or she gets takes the file. How old am I? No one hands out manila folders anymore with files. Here's the file. And it's like, she sees the email and then, she sees it's got a read receipt. So she reads it, flicks back, thank you for the da-da-da-da, and then ignores it for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, all right, what happened there?
Yeah.
All right. How are you going on that work? Oh, it's in my list of things to do.
Yeah.
It's just code for, I don't care. I don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about there? we're talking about, situations where the context becomes difficult, the context becomes toxic, or there's some logic that drives me to poorly manage myself
Yeah.
in that context. Well, I'm going to get a lot of money when I'm 50.
Yeah.
Okay. Get munching.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, but then like even though this is not confusing, but it's kind of like, well, you're in the job that matches who you are, but you're not acting like who you are. As in, if that situation is so toxic that it's leading you to a point where you're acting out of your ego, or you're acting out of your emotions, and you're reactive and da 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 da, then you're not aligned with your heart, even if you are in the right, even if you live in the right place.
yeah, and well, that could be the case. And then there are other people that are extraordinarily well disciplined at departmentalizing their life.
Compartmentalizing?
Compartmentalizing. Yeah, department. It's the department.
We're still in government.
Thank you for helping me there. Lucky that you're a literary major. Yeah, of compartmentalizing. I can't even say that word. Compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
They just quarantine an aspect of their life and they go, that's work. It doesn't matter. I go and do my time and then I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not that sort of person.
I'm also not that sort of person.
I can't do that. And look, the reason that I can't do that is because I can waste a lot of time in my life, but what I can't do is I can't take an 8-hour slab of my life 5 days a week and just go, these 8 hours, which is 40 hours of my life, are just about getting money. There's not a day in my life that I've ever woken up and gone, I'm happy to burn 8 hours doing something completely boring and mind-numbing to get money.
So then, again, like, what would your advice be outside of get munching? Like, do you know what I mean?
Well,
because that is the reality of a lot of people. They're in a job and then there's one person who is ruining it, or there's a bad culture or whatever it is, and the answer isn't necessarily, well, quit your job and find another one. Like, how do you return to your heart space and buy out of that toxicity
or mundaneness?
or mundaneness?
I mean,
whatever it is.
Well, it's interesting because that's not toxicity. That's just mundane. That's the person that's just gone, I'm burning 8 hours. I don't care. It's paying me X amount of money a year. So I'll burn that because it buys me a whole lot of benefits over here. A lot of people do that kind of cost benefit. But I think what you're doing then is you're quarantining a huge slab of your life to being really mundane.
Mm.
I just go and do this. I don't love it, but it pays the bills. It puts the kids through college. It pays the mortgage. It gets the car. I have great holidays, so I just do it. I mean, yeah, you're right. There's a truck ton of people that do that. But what I think you've had to do that is turn the volume down inwardly on a whole lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been able to turn the volume down is my problem. Because I think that this marriage between this is who I am and this is the way that I live, I think that that's fundamental to a sense of freedom.
Yeah.
For me, it's completely fundamental to a sense of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm in a context, even momentarily, and I'm not holding myself up here as the standard bearer, or the standard. Everyone needs to live like this, right? But when I find myself even for 5 or 10 minutes in a context, where it creates some kind of internal
dissonance,
and I can feel I will feel the disalignment. And I just won't be able to quarantine that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not the kind of guy that can go, doesn't matter, leave that, ignore that, suppress that. And I could, if my life was to turn up and do that day after day after day after day, I can't do it. Which doesn't mean that I'm so sensitive that I just need everything to be perfect for me. That's not the case. But what it means is I can't go into an environment where there's a vacuum of engagement. There's no engagement. There's no connection. There's no resonance. There's no harmony. I can face the worst things in life, right? really, really difficult situations, but I need to be able to have inner posture.
Yeah.
I need to have the inner posture of who I am being expressed in the environment that I'm. I can't shut down what's happening in here in order to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I think it becomes really damaged. And that's where we get what I would call hollow people, people that have shut down who they really are in order to stay in there. And again, that's the golden handcuff drama. I'm going to shut down my life for 14 years because I get a good payout when I'm 50. Okay. Wow. That's a big loss. That's from 22 to 50. That's 28 years of your life.
Yeah.
That's too much.
Yeah.
I can't do that for any period. I don't want to do that for any period of time. And I probably would say you don't have to. That's an exercise in pushing through to a place of freedom. I don't think you should have to do that. I don't think that anyone has to do that. I think that there's enough diversity, there's enough fluidity, there's enough opportunity, there's enough capacity to find things that deeply align because I really disagree with the idea that your vocation is your work, it's where you make your money. And then you have your life over here. And you might have a passion over here, but your passion doesn't mean that you should bring it over here into your workplace. In fact, just take the money that you make from working to invest in your passion. I hate that idea because for me, that's automatically a separation. This is what I'm passionate about, but I can't live out of that. Me personally, I don't want to do that. It doesn't mean that living out of my passion every day is the most wonderful day in my life. That's clearly not the case. Like I'm passionate about writing poetry, and I'm passionate about reading and literature and wisdom traditions. I don't get to do that every day. And even when I do that, I pick up Sri Aurobindo and feel like the dumbest person on the planet. Or I pick up a book on Vendetta and I just go, well, okay, I clearly don't have a clue. And getting a clue about certain things is painful. So even in my own discipline, even when I read really good writing, I don't know that I'm a really good writer. I write poems. They're good enough. They're the best that I can do. Are they bloody, Wordsworth? Are they Shakespeare? No, they're Bellow.
Yeah.
So there's challenges within the context of what I do. No doubt. But I insist on that alignment. I can't do that trade-off. And I don't like the logic that says, well, you really love this, but you've just got to go and do this to make money. Now, some people are sold on that. Some people are completely committed to that. I think that creates a massive problem.
Well, I think that this also inadvertently touches on, or kind of calls back to what we were saying earlier about you made a distinction between two different things that were going on. And the first one was that you're in alignment with, like, you are, or who you are aligns with what you're doing, but the context is just a bit messed up. And now we've touched on a second one, which is your vocation doesn't align with who you are, but you're doing it because there's that sense of this is just what I have to do or there's no other option.
Yeah.
I have pushback on this one though, because there are people who genuinely don't have another option. Like they have to work the 2 or 3 jobs to make sure that they have a roof over their head. Or
I know that that's the logical pushback. Let me tell you a story just to maybe give you a good indication. A friend of mine has a daughter called Lily. True story, this, not making up names, genuinely. And she did the same degree that your brother and my son did, Sam did. She did a Bachelor of Science. She didn't get enough from her HSC to get into medicine. She's always wanted to be a doctor. She got a Bachelor of Science. She did a Bachelor of Science at Macquarie, majoring in human biology. I think she might have done a master's after that. And then after that, she sat the GAMSATs, which is the entrance into medicine in New South Wales. And she did really, really well in the GAMSATs, but not good enough to get an interview. If you don't get an interview, you're not going to get a place. So she studied for 12 months, sat them again, didn't get there, right? Didn't get an interview. So then she went for, I think, 12 months to a school that helps you specialize in smashing a GAMSAT.
Mm-hmm.
And she smashed them and she didn't get an interview.
Right.
And so now she's going like, my passion is medicine. My passion is to be a doctor. It's what I have to do, right? Well, you're not getting a place.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a 4-year postgraduate degree, 3 years trying to get into the GAMSAT, trying to get into medicine. You're not getting a Guernsey, right? And so all the time, to supplement herself in this situation, she's cleaning high-rise windows.
Wow.
She's hanging off windows. She doesn't see herself as a high-rise window cleaner. That's not her thing, right? So she's got this problem, right? What does she do? Does she settle? Does she surrender the dream? Does she just let it go? I mean, there's no pathway. There's no pathway in Australia. Like, she can't do it. So she's really clever. What she does is she goes, where else in the world can I where can I get into medicine?
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And it so happens that she had a Russian grandmother, right? Which still doesn't really help you because she's a Russian grandmother.
Okay.
But it does make her think of that part of Eastern Europe as somewhere where she could go because there's some familiarity with it within the family tree.
Mm-hmm.
She gets into a university in Poland. So she up and leaves. Now she's got a boyfriend. Paradoxically, she's got a Belarusian boyfriend who has come out to Australia and can't go home because of the Russian-Ukraine war, and he would be recruited to fight in the Russian army against the Ukraine if he goes back to Belarus.
Yeah.
But he can't leave Australia. They want to get married. And she goes, I know, but I've like, okay, so what, does she go with the boy and not go to Poland where she's got into medicine?
Yeah. So
So she leaves the love of her life here and all of her family here and goes off to, what does she do? You know, she saves up enough money through window cleaning and she packs bags and she says, I love you, but we're going to have to
long
just
distance.
pause on this, Huckleberry.
I become a Polish doctor.
I'm going to go to Poland and study medicine. So she goes to Poland and she studies medicine. I think she does 3 years there. She's in her 3rd year there. And her dad paradoxically goes, this is bloody ridiculous, you know?
Yeah.
And so he rings around any university that he can and through his work, he makes someone who's connected and he rings around the universities and finally rings up Macquarie University and says, what's the deal? This girl's incredible. You know, like this is what she's done. She's a graduate from here. She's trying to do this. She's pursued this despite multiple pushbacks. And they go, yeah, she can come. So she comes and she gets a place at Macquarie University, but she doesn't get a place as a 3rd-year medicine student. She has to go back and start in 2nd year.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah.
What's the point of the story?
You tell me.
Well, the point of the story is she was unwilling to believe that she couldn't have the thing that she was passionate about, the thing that she knew she was a doctor. She knew that that's what she needed to do with her life. So she was willing to munch down for multiple years, 4 years doing a degree that wouldn't get her there, 3 years trying to get in, 2 years studying overseas away from family and or boyfriend.
Yeah.
She was willing to go through the better part of you're going to give me pushback now.
I am, because is this not the same as the person who is like, well, I like my job, but I don't like Meryl, and I've got the golden handcuffs, so if I just munch down for multiple years, then I'm going to like...
Yes, it is, but this is the difference, right? Because we were talking about people who, this is the essence who I am, and I'm doing something which has nothing to do with the essence.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Okay.
So when I said, this is the essence of who you are, and you'll have a context which is consistent with your essence, but you've got a Meryl or you've got some,
got it.
right? You have to, I said, the caveat there was you have to skillfully manage yourself in that context and figure out, you know, how long you can maintain that and what the bias is and very practically just do the fors and againsts of that situation, right?
Whereas this one is you have to be willing to
Fight for.
mm-hmm,
You're right.
to part.
No, no, you can't do Run DMC in the Way of the Heart podcast. But you do have to fight. You do have to keep persisting
Yeah.
until uh, you yeah. I think you have to be willing to go through, seasons of misalignment,
Yes.
of seasons of managing misalignment, but never losing sight of what it is you want to do. So I would say you going and getting a job as a teacher is like going, yeah, that doesn't align, but I do know what I want. I am the CEO of this company and I am running this and we are building capacity and all of
Yes.
that sort of stuff. So there's no lack of clarity about where we're headed, right? And that's the totally aligned piece.
Yes. Yeah, totally. I think probably one more thing to talk about here is Lily and me. There is a degree of privilege in both of our stories. Like we live in Sydney, like we live in Australia. I come from a, an upper middle class background. I have access to education. I have access to, I can go out and get a job, all of these things. I think that there are people in less fortunate situations who don't have the option to just, I'm just going to keep studying or I'm going to go overseas or I'm going to keep going until until this breaks through, sort of laboring under the assumption that it will at some point break through in that particular way. And so I think, though, that if you are in that situation, I don't think that that prohibits you from living in alignment with who you are. I just think that your vocation isn't going to always adequately house or contain who you are. And I think that a trap that a lot of people fall into is defining who they are or defining their craft by their vocation.
Yeah, but don't get into that duality again, right? Don't get into that duality of going, I think there's a danger in that,
In
right?
what?
Of going, well, this is who I am, this is my craft, which is connected to essence. This is what I'm really passionate and or good at, and or this is my life energy, this is my elan vital, this is really how it should express itself. But I've got my vocation over here. Lily never surrendered that and go, oh well, I've just got to reconcile myself to being a window cleaner. Right. And I think that that's a good principle.
Yeah, but Lily's privileged. Like if you're a single mum who's come out of a domestic violence situation, you have to work as a waitress. Like you've got no money, no roof over your head. Like to turn around to her and go, "Well, you just got to never let go of wanting to be a lawyer or whatever it is." It's like, well, like that's kind of,
No, well,
sitting on
well,
our
well, there's a reverse logic here, right? Because what it does when you take that away from her,
what away.
when you take the right for her to live in alignment with her essence, you make her a victim of that. You make her a lifelong victim of domestic violence. Instead of that being something that she's moving through and moving to a place of deep inner alignment and a flourishing life, every time we look at someone and go, well, you're not privileged, so therefore you have to stay in the role of the victim, we're taking the opportunity for them to basically transcend the situation that they're in and to live a life which is free and flourishing.
Wait,
So privilege, I get that we speak from a place of privilege, but maybe that's not I always think that sometimes is thrown up as the caveat, right? But there's endless stories about people who take a seriously non-privileged existence and commit themselves to a course of action, which gets them to a place where they're living wildly aligned with who they really are.
Can you, I mean,
Give you an example?
no, because I think there are lots of examples.
Yeah.
But I think what was probably more helpful was the reframe of you were talking about forcing the person to be the victim by prohibiting them. Can you reframe that end to end so that I can fully understand?
Well, as soon as you say, it's a lot like people go, well, I don't have a choice. Well, as soon as you take choice away from people, then they're a victim. It just is. It's one of the cruelest things that you can do to someone is to basically say to that person, well, you can't because you've got to, we used to do this all the time to kids with mental disabilities or physical disabilities. Now we got the Commonwealth Games. We got all sorts of people swimming 400-meter laps, but Seamus doesn't even have a leg, and he's still complete. You could never compete in a Commonwealth Games. You could never be an elite sportsman. Because why? Well, because you've only got half a leg. It's like, well, actually he can, because the heart, the will, the train, the ethic, it's all in him. It's all in her. Are we not even sure if you can dive off the board? Well, don't I have to dive? I'll start off in the pool, and so we often project, people often project, especially in mentoring and coaching and counseling, is we often project onto that person a condition that they are more than capable of transcending. But we have a mindset that goes, oh, that's a limiting factor, but they might not see it as a limiting factor in reality. And it may be momentarily a limiting factor, but if we just allow that person to express who they really are, we find, holy smokes, they're amazing. They can do that. They can transcend that. Whether it's poverty, whether it's a physical disability, whether it's whatever.
I suppose this also goes back to what you were talking about when you were saying, or when you were sort of defining definitions of success too. Like, success doesn't necessarily have to look like winning the Commonwealth Games or becoming really wealthy or whatever it is. The beautiful thing about living from your heart is that you get to define what living from your heart looks like, and if what you steal that
from someone,
that's
cruelty.
Yeah, right.
It's like you meet the neurodivergent person, right? And they got a lot of things going on. I mean, you had the birthday party at your place where we all went there, and you've got a bunch of borderline and or not really borderline, but genuinely right in the territory of neurodivergent people, right? Yeah. And you go, and it was folks, it was a PowerPoint party. I was dead. I had nothing, but these people turned up, and it was like, God, it was the funniest night because they were so random.
Yeah.
The stuff that they shared was like, wow, whose brain thinks like that? Their brain thinks like that.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
They're, the tyranny of topiary or Sailor Moon or flat Earth theory. What is under the earth? It's like, wow. And then a dude that loves trains, and then and then synesthesis and all this, and you're sitting there just going, this is not a normal party, right? But what you're seeing is neurodivergent people who are turning, or some people who are neurodivergent turning up and going, I'm just going to be me. Mm-hmm. I'm just turning up as me. Mm-hmm. And you go, well, you're freaking incredible. Mm-hmm. But if we make every party has to be a cool party where the cool charismatic person turns up and the music is just so, and I mean, I don't know. I'm 61 and I don't go to that many parties. It's like I haven't been to too many parties. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the king and the queen of the prom walk in and everyone goes, oh, Derek's here. It's like, wow, Derek, who's secretly gay, but he's going out with the prom queen, and he likes Lionel over there.
Yeah. No, Derek and the prom queen are both dating Carl in secret.
Yeah. So, I mean, you take a classic neurodivergent person and you put them in a normal context where you say, you have to behave like this. And they go, well, it's not in me to behave like that. So I can't get a win in that. But if you say to that person, hey, you turn up and you create the context for your life. You create the parameters. You create an expression. Now, they've got to go through the drama, like Lily had to go through the drama. They've got to go through the drama of creating an ecosystem around them which is generous. They've got to take themselves off the mountaintop if they're the mango tree. They've got to plant themselves somewhere else. It's not really ministry or institution or religion's fault that I didn't fit. I just probably needed to wake up a lot earlier and just go, dude, you're not going to fit here, you know?
Thanks, Elliot.
And I needed to, yeah, thanks, Elroy. And I just needed to go through the process of working out what it was where I did fit, you know, which is largely in a room by myself writing. Yeah, fantastic.
Or talking to your immediate family
I hate the people
about your beliefs.
I hate the people I work with. Dude, you work by yourself.
Okay.
So the reframe on that particular piece is someone's eccentricities or someone's disabilities or someone's particular context or someone's level of affluence and or non-affluence. Yes, of course it gets factored in, but it doesn't. It shouldn't get factored into the point where we say, look, you're really here, and you just need to reconcile that you need to do this, and you're never really going to get to express that. I'm never saying that to anyone. I'm never saying that to anyone. That's what we do with people who that's what we do with trans people. Well, that's what we do with people that's what we do with people, you know this, non-binary people. We say to them, well, you just need to, you know, you have this biology, so that is what it is. Suck it up. If you've got one of those, you're a male. If you don't, and this person goes, but there's something else going on. Well, bad luck. No, you can't say bad luck. You've got to go back to who the person is, and you've got to say what's really going on. That deserves expression. You know, and I'm not so insecure that I need to make you fit into my box. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Right. So then it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what their context is or what their level of affluence is.
Yeah.
I'm never saying, sorry, you just have to be a victim your whole life and your essence can never really.
Yeah.
Unlucky. You were just born like that and you were just born without enough money, and so now you can never rise through the ranks. I mean, that's the tyranny. That's tyranny.
Yeah, imposing the ranks on anybody.
Yeah, because of race, sexuality, because of any of these things, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think something that I really love about Way of the Heart is that it allows you to have full authorship over your own experience, and allows that to look like whatever it needs to look like for you.
Yeah.
And it allows you to completely disqualify that external reference point and go, you know what, like all of that's a game anyway.
Yeah.
All of that is nominal anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm falling in love with those two terms, actual and nominal. You know, nominal is it's sort of true but not really true. You know, actual is it's actually true. We look at these contexts that we're in and go, well, you just actually have to do. It's like, no, I'm actually this. My essence tells me what I actually am. This is all negotiable. So I'll negotiate it. That's what's negotiable. This is not negotiable. Yeah. When you negotiate this, you get sick. Yeah. That's so why do smart people stay in jobs?
So to summarize.
Yeah, circling back. Yeah, because they're skillful, but there's an element of skillfully managing yourself, and then there's an element of waking up and going, I am really smart and I can do this, but this has nothing to do with who I am. So therefore I need to find that alignment, which means I will go through a season of deconstruct, of going through the hardship of what it means to find alignment. I'll do the Lily journey, or I'll do the neurodivergent journey, or I'll do the whatever it is. I'll do, you know, and I had to do that. No one gets a leave pass for that. Surrendering to not doing the difficulty of finding that alignment, and you find highly decompartmentalized people who have shut down big slabs of their life, and you will never get me recommending that. That's my perspective.
Cool. Great. Thank you very much. And thanks for joining us for this episode. We look forward to seeing you again in the next one. Let us know what you thought. Leave a comment or a question. We always love to hear from you. Yeah, we'll see you in the next episode.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to Heart Riffing. If today's conversation resonated, you can find more of our work, including courses, mentoring, and workshops, at www.wayoftheheart.com.au or on our Instagram, Way of the Heart Official. We'd love to hear your thoughts, reflections, or questions, so please always feel free to message or comment. We look forward to seeing you next time.